All right, we'll give everyone a couple of minutes to join.
Hi, it's Ronnie. I'm joining instead of Tzachi from NVIDIA.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hey.
All right. While we're waiting for quorum, if you guys have any topics, think about them, and we can type them in. And the only topic I really had was is there anything concrete that we could do to help the NTT use case? And I think Alad has a perspective on that, so I'm glad he joined. But you know, after hearing seeing the NTT use case, you know, what should, you know, is there anything we can do? What could we do or have them do with us? And they typed a few things in, and again, Alad, maybe you could go over a little bit about what they typed in and why this use case is interesting, and we can go from there. But also, if you have any other topics, let me know. All right, so we actually have quorum. All right. Any other topics from anyone, not just the TSC members? One of the so again, this may be a short call. I thought about canceling it because again, I didn't have a lot of topics I wanted to drive today. One of the things I want to do is get a readout from all the in-flight projects. So I'll send an announcement out about that in TSC calls, and I want to get a update date from each of the working groups. Okay, so I'll type that in. So we'll ask for TSC. So this is, you know, what you know, Red Hat had proposed, Intel Ericsson had proposed, F5 had proposed, what Keysight is working on with the storage demo, and so on. Okay. Any this will help. All right. Anything else that we want to do? All right. Future topics. Any future topics? So I have these, actually I have these up here already, so I'll just copy that up. Future topics. How close do you think we are on trying to define a 1.0 release? I don't think we're ready yet, but how close are we to defining a 1.0 release? So from the silence, we must be very far, in your guys' opinion.
Anyone?
Okay, so we have some success. So Dan Daly just announced that the IPDK release that has that uses the OPI storage APIs completely has been done. The IPDK references to the previous API they were using have been removed. So there was progress on that front, which is good. It would be nice if we could come to a common. It would be nice. We must come to a common definition for some of the networking APIs, or at least a couple of alternatives, and so on. But we'll take that up when we do the API working group review.
That sounds good. Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah. All right. And then the storage. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, just a logistics point.
Mhm.
Looks like Santander's here for Pursuit. I believe he's here for Pursuit. They sent an email yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Good point. Okay. And then for storage developer conference, there are actually going to be 4 sessions for DPUs, and all have are basically centered around OPI. So we're getting both of our sessions in. Announcements have already gone out for the accepts, so not a super secret thing. For the demo one, and everyone here, we need to figure out what to actually show.
Yep.
What to talk about. So talking about OPI integrations, talking about these project updates on basically how they leverage OPI to be multi-vendor would be good. And then for the big overview, I can put that together. I'll ask for any help, but for and these are basically 45-minute sessions is the way to think about them.
Okay, sounds good.
You should have gotten your acceptance already.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. I'm not sure that I put my name down. It may have been I put. I'll look.
Yeah, you didn't put on this. I can find out, and I can find out and see. But
It might have come from VinCat. It might have gone to VinCat.
Okay, that's fine. That's good as well. All right. So okay. Yeah, I can't type. Okay. Any other topics? All right, so Alad, you and I were talking, and in the use case working group, we talked about what we could do for NTT. Maybe do you want to talk about that a little bit? And again, we're not going to go the full time today, I can tell. But maybe
Sure.
yeah, if you talk a little bit about that NTT use case that came in, because I think it's interesting.
It's Entity Labs, and they're working with collaborations from NVIDIA, Fujitsu, Red Hat, and many others. And the idea is that they want to create an end-to-end solution for video at the edge, or processing video at the edge, computer vision. And they were showing all the way from distributed UPF flavor that they've done, offloading on the DPU IPU, through using the DPU IPU for filtering packets coming into AI, and sharing packet movement from the DPU IPU to other segments like the CPU memory and the GPU memory. So they were showing a few things. And when we looked at it in detail, we said, on paper, we can actually do all of those at OPI. And Entity Lab is an entity R&D project, which means that they build it to show capabilities, and then they use parts of it in the real scenario and deployments. And I think that I would say the most common part was the distributed UPF, simply because there are many UPF vendors and they were using their own flavor, but the type of work that is being done to map out UPF functionality onto a DPU IPU and enable that DPU IPU to offload significant parts of the UPF is not only a very painful part for all the telcos and everybody using UPF, and it's growing to be a more painful part for 5G, but also an opening for us to start thinking about service chaining as well. So I discussed it with the team on the use case. I discussed it later with Joe again. And we thought that because we have Intel and Ericsson already working together, we wanted to request Ericsson to come and work with us on defining what would be UPF offload OPI style on the DPU IPU. And if we can get that done correctly with Ericsson leading, I think that's a huge win, because that will open the door to not only a lot of deployment partners, but also to a lot of future work. Because as I said, UPF is the first step, then that you have to service chain it with security, with load balancing, and so on. So that's the first idea we had out of that meeting. Joe, do you want to add?
No, I want feedback. I mean, I could talk about this for 15 minutes and put you guys to sleep, but what do you guys think? Worth pursuing? Bad idea? And if it's a bad idea, say why. Again, that's kind of the point of this call.
I think it's a good idea. I think a lot of folks who are already here are part of some of that IOWN ecosystem, and then what NTT does, especially there. I think that makes it even more relevant for us.
Right. Any other thoughts? All right. Alad, you and I can work on the individual member companies to see if we can get buy-in and create a proposal. So we'll talk. We can
Gladly.
Talk. We can talk, and try to get buy-in directly, and then we'll come back with what we learn. The only other interesting thing that happened yesterday, well, a lot of interesting things happened yesterday, but The big one that reflects on OPI is UEC got formed and launched as a Linux Foundation project. So does anyone not know that announcement happened and what UEC is?
I'll raise my hand.
Okay, so UEC is the Ultra Ethernet Consortium, and its purpose is to define higher speed, lower latency, better loading, i.e. better congestion control and all the things that go with it for networks, with a stated goal of helping to solve HPC, both at sort of the mid-scale and exascale, and AI fabrics. The reason I'm bringing this up is because if you're going to solve this problem, DPUs can be used as one of the components in some interesting ways, right? Because it gives you a place that's OS independent for interacting with your network switches in an interesting way. So what I don't know, but I'm going to find out, is what UEC is driving in that direction. So again, one of the things I can do is I can make I can change, for HPC type deployments, I can change the forwarding pipelines and have agreed to behaviors and limitations to reduce latency, right? More than just making my my silicon faster and reorganizing my my RTL code and whatnot to cut latency. If I can simplify the problem set, I can make it better. Academic papers have a large number of techniques for loading fabrics better and doing different forms of global scheduling and or virtual output queuing and or very fast, very temporary bandwidth reservation. There are probably a dozen approaches you could use that have been in academic papers and actually tried by companies over the last, I don't know, 20 years. Some have been applied to, some of those ideas have been applied to InfiniBand. Some have been applied to OmniPath, and what, for example, Cornelis now does. Some have been applied by startups in interesting ways. Some have not been applied yet. Some have been applied for projects that showed up and then went away. Some have been applied by the hyperscalers. So, but DPUs are, an interesting component in that world going forward, because they're fast enough and capable enough with enough hardware offload to make those ultra Ethernet fabrics better. And I can't go into the details of exactly how they make it better. Again, you can go look up academic papers. So the question is there something for DPUs that ought to be defined in common to go with this new Linux Foundation project, the Ultra Ethernet Consortium? So I don't know if anybody has any thought or discussion on that, but that was an announcement that was made yesterday that I thought actually had bearing on what we're doing and defining.
Joe, to me, this announcement and the idea relates a little bit to something we have discussed in the past, which is running a NOS on the DPU and making the DPU essentially a part of the switching fabric. And then you can implement all sorts of tricks. I won't go into too much detail, but all sorts of tricks to help the network be almost lossless or getting closer to lossless versus regular Ethernet. So I think we did bring it up before, but I am interested to know which direction, if at all, we want to go with this, because again, I'm all for running a NOS on the DPU IPU. but it does require a lot of thinking about what we want to achieve.
Right. Yep. Good comment. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I mean, one way to look at it is it's like a full stack Ethernet, which suddenly has higher layers in it than before. And that's what in a way is making it interesting for us, because IPUs, DPUs can add value more than just the low-level transport, I think. So either congestion control, spraying, the bunch of ideas there, looking at to kind of cut the tail latency. So all of it looks very attractive from a IPU DPU point of view.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Is that something to completely stay away from? Is that something we should be looking at?
I think your sense of it is right, Joe. It's something we need to be tracking and to see where we fit into it, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what to say about it right now. I need to go read about it.
Yeah, again, this is also a heads up that if you didn't know about this, go read about this, because DPUs and the software that runs on them will be interacting with these kind of fabrics. That's guaranteed. I mean, this consortium wasn't formed idly. It had been gestating for, I don't know, I can argue it's been gestating for 10 years, even though the people involved right now didn't know it. But as a consortium, it's probably 15 or 18, maybe it was 15 or 18 months before it got, I guess the announcement happened. It's at least a year, but it's probably more like 18 months. So this isn't brand new. It's just now public. All right. Any other things that have come up or topics? Otherwise, I'll close the call and we'll get the project update scheduled. We'll get the working group update scheduled, and then Alon and I'll see if we can motivate, the NTT related project, and see if we can get that launched. Any final thoughts or comments from anyone?
Just Alon and Sridhar, are we thinking NTT is a possible member of OPI in the near future?
We suggested it during the call, and they definitely said that there is interest. They need to take it back to their management and see. Keep in mind that for them, ION is sort of a similar idea. So I was actually suggesting that they combine ION with us in a way, and let's see what they say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arpit is discussing too on that.
Right. Okay. And all right. So if there are no other topics or discussion or questions on anything we've discussed, we can I'll end the call. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.